Howdy.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going good.
Oh, man, it's been a long time coming. Been talking about this for like months,
Yeah.
and trying to get everybody on the same page. And it seems like we had one person fall off the edge of the earth, and we can't find him anymore. And we both been kind of busy. We just been kind of missing each other a little bit. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but at least we can finally kind of get this out of the way a little bit, or at least have this be the start of possibly more to come. But I guess this is going to be a little bit more about you. How did you get started in e-bikes, or get put in the position with starting the company that you're running now?
Well, I'll start with how I got started with e-bikes. A couple of years ago, I think it's probably about 3 years ago now that my wife and I were. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and we had two cars at the time, and um, she would have a car and use it for getting groceries and taking kids to school and things like that. And I had my own little commuter car, and ultimately one of the cars just started having mechanical issues, was getting expensive, and so we decided to get rid of it. And I work in construction is kind of my day job,
Honestly, I thought you
and
did something like, for some reason I had the idea that you worked at like a university or something. I don't know why, but anyway.
I actually do. I teach carpentry classes at a community college, so a couple different jobs. But
Okay.
anyway, my day job is a construction project engineer, basically. So I do site management, write contracts, get subcontractor bids, things like that. Um, but for the most part, I'm on the job site, and the job sites are relatively close to my house, within 10 miles or so. So I thought, well, why not try it by bike? And I did, and I'm in terrible shape. And of course, Seattle has lots of big hills, so I ultimately decided the bike isn't going to work out too well unless I get in some serious shape. But I had heard about electric bicycles, and my cousin actually had brought and showed me an electric bicycle probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a piece of junk little bike. I think it had a little, sealed lead acid battery, and it might have even been like a friction drive or something. It was pretty crappy, but I knew that electric bikes existed, and so I started researching and. Spent a couple weeks just kind of looking at kits and hill toppers and all sorts of, just generic uh, kits to add to a bicycle, and ultimately stumbled upon Endless and that's kind of really where I got started. Started researching, found electricbike.com and read some articles there. And at the time I was researching, the Bafang BBS2 had just come out, and that kind of intrigued me as far as a mid drive and uh, just the user friendliness of it. I was a little bit intimidating about installing it. I had worked a little bit on bicycles and I knew how to do general maintenance on bicycles, but um, installing a kit seemed a little bit scary to me at the time. I am with my construction background, fairly familiar with household electricity. I did my own wiring in my own house, so I'm fairly comfortable with AC electricity, but I never really had done much with DC electricity, other than maybe a car stereo here or there. But anyway, I ended up picking the Fang BBSO2 as my first kit. Ordered it from electriccycles.com, actually,
Same here.
down in California. Um, and then I built my battery with Hobby King lithium polymer as a new e-bike user. That probably wasn't the most wise decision, but of course ignorance is bliss, right? So I did a fairly detailed build thread on that build, which was my first thread on Endless my first major build thread anyway. And for the most part, I've been pretty happy with that bike. I actually still have it, still ride that bike on occasion. It's great for hills in the Northwest, but that kind of got me exposed. And of course, once you get
The
hooked
fever.
on, yeah, once you get the addiction, it's all over. Um, so anyway, you know, I enjoyed the mid drive, but I wanted more power, and so I started researching options, and of course, again on endless sphere, and started looking at the direct drive hub motors and started experimenting. Bought uh, actually it was a Muxus off of eBay.
The
And I
regular, the regular 9C variant or the big boy?
The 9C variant, yeah, this is before they came out with the 45 millimeter stator version.
Okay.
So anyway, I got one of those, put it on a full suspension bike, and I'm pretty sure I had the Hall's phase wire combo wrong because it spun way too fast. But I did manage to get some 30 mile an hour runs out of it, and it was pretty fun. Um, but ultimately, I didn't like the frame, that particular frame. It was a Kona King Kickapoo frame, and for whatever reason, if it wasn't tuned right or whatever, it just felt way more unstable to me than my BBS02 bike frame did. So I ultimately kind of pulled that one apart and uh, started looking at the Genesis V2100 builds that a few of the guys were doing, the Farfel swing arm, and uh, got my hands on a original Farfel swing arm. Picked one up from uh, Ice Wrench, I believe. Al is his name, who's in Seattle, fairly close to me. So he bought a couple of them back when Farfel was making them, and so I grabbed one and installed it and built the what we call the Urban Assault, or the Assault and Battery, that I did the build thread for. So that, of course, was with the Muxus motors. In this time, of course, I had kind of the Muxus 45 millimeter stator. They called it the mini Crow motor, basically, which I think Alex posted the original thread on that, and I think that thread's now about 63, or it's several, many pages long at
Way
this.
too long. It needs to be pruned and categorized at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So, but anyway, it kind of, I was a early adopter on that, and at the time when it was first made known, they still had the V1, which is the stamped steel steeder, um, and of course they had the video with the, as it turns out, is a E4 bike on the Russian
Yeah,
forums,
the
or
Russian guys. Yeah.
the Russian guy. Yeah, his name is actually Valentin. And I have regular conversations with him, as well as Sam DeCock in Australia. We're kind of the three main Muxus dealers throughout the world, other than like Alibaba, AliExpress. So, but anyway, originally I decided it'd be kind of cool to do a group buy for these Muxus motors, the V1s at the time. And so I suggested that somebody do a group buy, and of course nobody volunteered. And so, again, being the relative noob on the block, I said, well, I could do that, and I did. I think we ended up buying a total of about 40 motors in that group buy, and uh, basically a bunch of Endless Gear guys sent me money, and I placed the order with Muxus. I think they had a 20 motor minimum, which is pretty much the minimum they still have.
What is
But
the dollar amount of that $20 minimum?
it's going to be right around 4,500 bucks is the minimum purchase.
And that's just
Uh,
bare motor or laced.
that's bare motors. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So anyway, we ended up it was close to a $10,000 order that I placed for that group buy, and so we get the motors and I pack them up and I ship them out, and of course we all started having fun building with these motors, and it was fairly enjoyable. It wasn't too stressful, other than having a whole bunch of other people's money and not knowing if I was actually going to get motors or not. But I did, so um, it all worked out. And of course, I've purchased probably another couple hundred motors since then from Muxus over the last year or so. And now they're, of course, doing the version 2 stators, which are the aluminum stamp core stators with a thinner lam. So they're very high efficient. They're close to the efficiency of the Pro motors and the QS motors that are out there. So really, I've been pretty impressed with the efficiency and the power tolerance of the Muxus motors.
Yes, I mean, from what I've noticed, I've been a direct drive fanboy for such a long time, and I did dabble in the Bafang mid drive for a hot second. I still have it, trying to unload it at the moment, but I think it's probably going to
Yeah,
hold a close part in a part of my heart to where I probably am not going to be able to part with it. But yeah, so I mean, comparing it to other motors, I've pretty much been in the 9C variant for the most part, and it is just they get saturated so easily. I mean, the power handling on them is horrible just because they don't have a lot of mass, and they have stamp stamp stator supports,
yeah,
the riveted stator supports, or however you want to put it, and there were, I mean, I've had motors that did have aluminum, like the aluminum, like the Muxes, they had that style of stator support. The Magic Power was one of them, and I think I've had
uh,
maybe another one. Um, and they handle heat a little bit better, but this one, as far as like I'm not sure what you would call it, the heat soak or heat delay or the saturating point on it is very high. So I mean, you can peak on this motor quite a bit, and as long as you back off a little bit every once in a while and let it kind of normalize or let the temperatures drop a little bit, it keeps a healthy reserve to where if you need to get back on it, it's always there, and it doesn't get to that point where the acceleration stuff starts to feel a little soft and spongy, and it doesn't get critical. I'll put it that way. I mean, right now
right.
mine's is vented, so I am pushing a little bit more, pushing a little bit over double what is rated for. But
Sure.
as far as with my combination with the thermal throttling and the venting and just trying to get it up to speed and stay at top speed. At top speed, it does right at 3,000 watts for me. I'm running the 4 turn, and it does
Yeah.
like 40, 45, and it does about 3,000 watts. So as long as the terrain is flat, it pretty much will do that continuous without issue. You have experience with the other flavors like the 5T and is it the 5T on the Dolomite or is it 6T on the Dolomite?
Actually, the Dolomite I ride is a 6T. So I've ridden mostly the 3 turn on the Genesis V2100.
And that's the
It
drag bike.
that's the drag bike. Yeah, we got that one up to 60 miles an hour back in April. So, and that motor, I have not been able to overheat. It just takes it and takes it. The 6T I run on the fat bike with the large tires, and again, I don't run it at super high voltage. I run it at 18 series LiPo. I like to run the multi stars. And I limit the amps to about 45 amps from the battery, and it's a fun ride, and it's got lots of torque, and that one I typically run. If it's at 45 amps and 75 volts when it's hot, you're really only pushing about 3,000 to 3,500 watts maximum. So I'm not really pushing that motor that very hard, but I guess it's just kind of what guys have acquired a taste for as far as torque and power. On the 3 turn that I ride on the Assault, um, I'll typically cruise at 35 to 45 miles an hour on that. Again, I run that on 18S lithium polymer, the same multi-star batteries, and it's 75 volts, and I run that at about up to 65 amps. So at 75 volts, I can cruise comfortably at 45, close to 50 miles an hour, and it'll do that all day long. Now the tires I have on the Assault are a 17-inch moped or motocross rim with a fairly small moped tire. It's a Hutchinson GP1 2.25 17-inch, so it's only 21 and a half inches diameter. The high speed motors like the 3-turn Muxus do like that really tiny tire size.
Yeah,
Really helps them stay efficient.
yeah, it's really keeping. It's all about keeping the motor at the highest speed possible to make sure has the best efficiency possible. As I keep telling people, the closer your unloaded motor speed is to your loaded motor speed, the bit more efficient that your setup would be. And that's having that tire. I mean, having that motor in such a small tire. That means it's able to develop the RPMs a lot quicker. So you're not lugging it at low
Yeah,
speed, and then the torque and acceleration just gets amplified to where it just really, really shines. So, and you keep on saying 18S, and
yeah,
I'm an honest believer. 18S is where most of the people need to be because you can get most of your speed and torque in that power range. Because going to 24S, I tried 24S on the Muxus, and it was thrilling, but it got saturated very quickly, and like I said, really in a really short period of time, like in about, I would say, less than 10 minutes, I really knew that the motor was hot and it was just feeling soft and spongy. And I got up to like 55 miles an hour on the 4T, and it's just really, it's exhilarating, but the longevity of that motor isn't guaranteed at that voltage whatsoever. You waste a lot of power. And I think it isn't it like every time you get 5 or 10 miles per hour over, like, I guess 35 or 40 miles per hour, the power required to maintain that gets squared. So, like I'm
yeah,
at 40 miles an hour or 45, I'm able to do 3,000. But in order for me to maintain that 55 miles an hour, it's taking me every bit of 5,500, 6,000 watts to maintain that speed. So that's why I like 18S. And yeah, you can throw a lot of current in there at 18S, but essentially that current decay, if you have your build set up right, the current decay will come in rather early as that motor gets up to top speed, and it just has a nice cruising power level, about 3,000 watts. That's
right,
what the
right.
motor can take. So, um,
Yeah. I actually have a quick little chart that I've worked up as far as speed and power that it takes. So on the Muxus motors, if you're going 30 miles an hour on the flat with just a normal mountain bike uh, profile of wind resistance, you're roughly at 1,045 watts of power to do 30 miles per hour continuous. Now, if you step that up to 40 miles per hour, you're more than doubling your wattage. You're up to 2,314 watts of power. Bumping that up to 50, you're now at 4,400, so you almost doubled again. And then going up to 60, you're at 7,400. So yeah, it's an exponential power curve as you go up in speed.
yeah, like saying everything, what plays into that is also wheel size, vehicle load, payload, with the rider and the weight of the vehicle. So yeah, my number is a little bit higher, but I'm running 26-inch wheels on a 4T. So according
Right.
to your little chart where you have like the red and green, where which wheel size would go with which motor better, I'm on the extreme end of what you can do on a 4T. I'm
Right.
barely in there, but like I said, it's been an exhilarating ride with the 4T and a 26-inch wheel. And I have the V2, and I didn't buy it in the group buy, but somebody else did and didn't complete the project, and I just ended up scoring it at an amazing price, laced. And the only thing that I've done is I took it to the shop and had it trued once, and it's been bomb
Yeah.
proof ever since. They use very, very heavy gauge spoke. It was a nice wide decent rim, and the quality, I haven't had any bearing issues or anything. Have I mean I have nothing too bad to really say about this motor. This is like the best motor that I've had so far, um, other than the Crystal Lights, the older Crystal Lights, which are out of production, the 5300 series. Other than that,
Yeah.
this one's still a notch above that. I mean, it's, and they probably can only be superseded by the Crow motor. So this is indeed a game-changing motor, as far as I'm concerned, and it's at a nice price point to where everybody should, be able to get a taste of it without breaking the bank. Because how much are you selling these motors on your website?
I'm selling them for 350 shipped to the continental United States. So
And that's that. Is
um,
that bare motor or laced?
that's a bare motor.
Okay.
So we offer a variety of lacing options, including any bicycle rim and our motocross rims, the 17 and 19-inch motocross rims. So we actually get our rims from Holmes Hobbies. So they're the Holmes MMP rims that you might be familiar with.
And so, are you just doing the rims, or you said, I think I spoke with you, and you said you had a local shop lacing them?
We actually have an in-house wheel lacer that has had his own business lacing wheels and doing general bicycle repair for I think 20 years now. He's a very good wheel lacer, but he actually is part owner in our company, so he's our go-to guy for all our wheel lacing. His name is Eric, and he's an ex NASA and Boeing mechanic. So he is uh, does some really amazing stuff.
I want to get on to your drag bike. What is the exact setup of the drag bike?
So the drag bike, as we raced it, um, is a Muxus 3-turn, which we've had on it from the beginning, in the 17-inch motocross rim with the tire that I mentioned previously. It's a 21.5-inch moped racing tire. And the controller we used is a Lian 18-FET 4110 controller. And when we did our 60 mile per hour run, I was running at just under 100 volts. I think I had like 98 volts. Batteries weren't fully charged. It was 24 S multi-stars. And I had the battery amps, I think, at 80, and the phase amps at 180. And at the time, I had a Cycle Analyst version 2,
Hmm.
2.3 on it, which doesn't have the throttle ramping feature that I've grown to love since then.
It hit me.
And yeah, so I actually disconnected the Cycle Analyst for the, the the fastest run that we did and just ran straight off the controller. And it's a little kind of hard to control without that throttle ramping feature. I really
Definitely. What
really do like that.
Well, like, what did you find that you set your throttle ramping on your, like, how many volts per second? I
Oh
mean,
man, I've played around with a lot of different settings, and really it just depends on how you'd like to ride. But if I'm racing, it's going to be fairly short. If I'm, just kind of commuting around town, a nice long 3, 4, 5 second ramp up is kind of comfortable.
yeah, like I found with like, at least with my 4T, I'm running similar setup as kind of your drag bike. I'm running about 80 amps, 80 amps battery and 160 phase, and without any throttle ramping, it will lift the front end, buck even me, and I'm a heavy rider.
Yeah,
Uh, and so that's definitely a no go. I kind of take it off. It's sort of like how Luke did his video, like, the bike is dangerous. I kind of do the same thing
yeah,
with my
yeah,
with the demo rides. The bike is dangerous, and they're like, holy crap, and
yeah,
even like 180-pound riders, I can see them for a few seconds, like the wheel is in the air, turned off to the side, as they take off, and they might be able to plant it, after a few seconds. So I know that there's an insane amount of acceleration and torque with that, but that's with no ramping whatsoever. But I typically run around zero point 0.2 to zero point 0.3 volts a second, so that's actually kind of conservative,
yeah,
very conservative. And basically, one, I kind of have it set that way just due to uh, me not having clamping dropouts. So, and I also use regen, so you do feel a slight rock. I trust the torque arm, but you feel a slight rock in the motor and the dropouts, and so I just kind of have it as a soft start. So after like 1 or 2 seconds, it comes on really hard, but at least it's not like you have that seat
Yeah,
ramming
it's
you
not
in the. But
instant.
yeah, exactly. So it's like a little delay, but it comes in handy. I can definitely, if I limit, like I'm using a 3-speed switch. I have a legal 3,000 watt
Right.
mode and unlimited. When I'm in the 3,000 watt mode, um, with that same ramping, it's it kind of makes you like when you're off the line, it's like, oh crap, and then all of a sudden you get that surge, and you can take the lane if you're riding in traffic or something. So it is a little bit of a delay, kind of gets you scared, like you can't get out of the situation, but a second or two later it comes through with the truth, and
Yeah.
it's very instantaneous. The torque on the low end is very, very prominent on these motors. So um, and it's nothing like I've ever felt. I never could get that feeling out of a 9C
Right.
variant motor. Just even if you just dump current into it, it's just you're not going to get that same effect. And
Yeah.
that's just due to the wider stator and it just being able to develop a lot more torque. So, um,
Yeah.
but anyway, Alex, I know we got on the side tangent about the throttle ramping, but
Right.
it seemed like like the 3T would be a little bit softer, because it's kind of typical of low turn count motors to be really energy hungry, especially on the low end on launching. So I'm pretty
Right.
sure there's a lot left in there if you had maybe a lot more aggressive controller. Um,
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
where you should go if you with the drag bike, I think you should go towards the route of a Sabaton controller. I'm hearing really really good things about that setup, and at least you can go up to possibly I think it's like 300 or 350 phase amps, and I think well over 100 150 battery amps, and that controller really protects itself. It's not like the Infineon that's you turn your back on it a second, it is gonna pop some fets. I,
Right. Yeah.
I,
You want to hear about our next race bike that we're going to be racing in a couple of weeks?
go for it, man.
Well, we're actually going to be using the 100, sorry, the 96 volt Sabaton for our controller, which will actually take up to 120 volts maximum. I'm probably going to be running 28S.
Yeah, because it's a real odd number. You can't run
Yeah,
quite run it's 24. You can't run 38 30s, I believe. You have to be a
right,
little bit
right,
shy.
right.
So
So 28 will get me up to about 117 fully charged. And we're actually not going to be running a Muxus on this next race bike. We're doing a QS motor, and I had a high-speed motor, QS 205,
yeah,
built for us with it's got a 15.83 kV, so it's a very fast turn
like
QS motor.
yeah, I always keep on top of the things that you're doing, and I think you had the vendor was like really hesitant about selling it to you.
Yeah. I didn't quite tell them exactly what we were going to be using it for. I didn't want to throw too many red flags out there, but I'll be happy to send them the video once we.
Now, is this the same motor that Bright Franklin? Is that the same motor that he had, or
I know. I believe Simon Askew has one. I think he's
okay?
got a 8 or 9 kV motor, a little bit more torquey. Um,
Well,
supposedly, the QS motors were made in the same factory as the Pro motor, although there's some dispute about whether that's true or not. But early on, QS was claiming that they were the manufacturer of the Pro motor. Honestly, I can't say for sure, but what I have seen of the motor, it's a very impressive motor. We're pretty excited to be racing with it.
like so I'm trying to. I mean, I'm aware of part of the QS lineup. Is this their motor that's like between 30 to 35 pound, or is this that 50-pound one?
It's about 30 pounds.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's a 16 pole motor as opposed to like the
36. Wait, is it a 36? The
mm,
normal standard 32 pole.
yeah, 32 poles. Yeah, 16. Um,
So the magnets in that thing must be huge.
Yeah, they're big, and the windings. I want to say there's 50 strands of copper around in parallel around the teeth, and it's a three turn. So it's a big powerful motor.
And I think this is like on the QS motor, this is the largest motor that you can still fit in 150 millimeter dropouts
I think that is true. Yeah, I
without.
haven't heard of one that's bigger that you can fit in a 150.
Yeah, that one's like insane. Like I said, I think the rating on this one isn't in like 8,000 watts or something like that, or
Yeah, I want to say they rated for like 5 to 8,000 watts, but we're gonna basically try and max out that Sabaton, which I think is around 18 kilowatts.
and the only thing that I can say is like that Sabaton might try to protect itself because typically with these low turn motors, the inductance is very crazy on these things. So,
Right.
I'm glad that you at least didn't go the Kelly route because Kelly I know definitely shuts down to where you have to baby the throttle in order to get it to be play nice with the motor. Because it's there's just an incredibly high phase amp, especially on the low end,
Right.
with three turn motors, and so especially with the more copper that you have in there, it's if you had it's almost along the lines of I remember the Crow motor used to pop controllers, and they tried up to 36 FET controllers, and they really couldn't get anything that was solid. And I even think the the people that make the Crow motor had an outrunner that they use in cars, and that thing just destroyed everything. So you got to be really careful at high voltages and high amperages, and hopefully the Sabaton can protect itself. But I know definitely the Sabaton on the Muxus 3000 watt is a good pairing, but I'm not sure. I hope everything goes well for you, but it's sort of
Yeah.
like be forewarned. You are.
Yeah. There's certainly going to be some experimentation as we get closer. But the other controller that we're excited to be testing is the new controller from ASI that Grin sells, the
Yeah,
BAC 2000. Um,
yeah.
I've got a couple of those. One of which Justin actually used to dyno test the three-turn Muxus sample motor that I sent him a while ago. So he's already kind of modified and configured it for the three turn. I'm going to be putting that on the Assault because I actually did blow the FETs on the Lian controller that I had about a month ago. So we're repowering the Assault with the BAC 2000.
And the
Um,
thing is with the BAC, that's a field-oriented controller or a sine wave controller, so it's going to
right,
sound different. It's going to respond different. And like I said, with most sine wave, sine wave field,
FOC, yeah, field oriented control.
yeah, they normally they actually measure the phase current. The Infineons kind of do some weird calculation, which can be off, especially with certain modifications like the R12 mod and everything that can kind of skew a little bit of their readings. They're kind of calculating
Right.
phase current and stuff, and they can be off. Where the field oriented controllers are actually measuring the phase current and reacting accordingly just to protect itself and everything. But it's still when you look at the BAC, the one that Grand offers, that's an extremely small footprint controller. Only
It's
thing,
amazingly small. Yeah, I've got it actually sitting on my desk looking at it right now, and it's just bigger than the size of my palm and maybe 2 inches tall. It's pretty impressive.
the only thing that I'm worried about that controller is, I either a controller is a continuous duty or it's a peak controller, and like I said, the Infineon type controllers are peak controllers. That BAC, it doesn't have a lot of mass, and the heat sink isn't that great on it, so it makes me wonder how well it performed. If it was in normal e-biking condition with a normal rider, it probably would perform phenomenally. But as far as something that's gonna be put through a lot of abuse, I'm kind of leery of it, and that's just my personal opinion. Just due to it, it probably has very good FETs that have low resistance, so it might not be building up a lot of heat to be worried about anything because it's essentially a 6 FET controller, but it's probably using like, I think it's like maybe 247 FETs or something like that. Some extremely, like the regular Infinity controller use, is it 220 package?
Right, yeah, the TO220s.
Yeah, so that one has to be using a 247 or larger to get that type of power out of it and it be reliable. But I'm worried about it being under any continuous duty for more than a few minutes, because that's a lot of that's a lot of power. And the reason why I say that is comparing it to Kelly controllers and the Sabaton, that which have huge metal heat sinks in them. Half like a lot of the weight of the Sabaton controller is just due to the metal and the heat sinking. So when you have that BAC in comparison to a Sabaton, it's like a night and day difference. But then again, is this really because of waste, or is it one made more for reliable operation? I mean, we're right. With the BAC controller, the company is well known. Is it ASI, a company up in Canada that's been doing this for
Yeah,
years?
they're in Toronto, I think, but yeah, they're up in Canada.
Yeah, so they've been doing this for years, but it's still we push the envelope. So you'll be definitely doing uncharted territory. And like I said, I understand, like you said, Justin did dyno testing, and that like I said, those are short runs. I mean, he's very thorough with the testing, but those typically short runs at kind of semi low power levels.
Right,
Uh,
yeah, Justin typically tests the motors at 36 and 48 volts, so
yeah,
a bit lower than a lot of us are running at 18 to 20 something cells.
but still, the data he collects scales up very well, and it tells you the truth on how the motors perform. He said if he can get good, honest white data specs out of the motor manufacturers, he could almost model them identically to the curves that he gets out of the dyno, and it'll be only like it'll be negligible points off. But at least he verifies it, and at least we can model things. And I had another cast with somebody else. I wish some of these people like HPC and stuff would actually send him motors in so we can really see how they stack up and perform. Because you sell low turn motors, but HPC sells incredibly low turn motors, or very very hot wines with very very high speed wines. Like we know how Crystal Light categorizes their stuff as like 35, 35 45 or whatever, but HPC sells like 35 95, which I think is either at 36 or 48 volt. They'll do like 95 kilometers per hour
Right.
at that voltage. So they're extremely hot. So that's why you typically don't see their bikes over 50 volts, because
Right.
they're, yeah. So,
They feed them.
and like, I think like another motor winding they have in the 40 millimeter wide stator is the 4100. I think like one of our people
Yeah.
on the Endless Sphere forum has it. And it's just like, yeah, he's running 50 volts and doing like almost 50 miles an hour. Um, on that thing, and it's just we really need to model those, because simply venting those motors isn't going to do much, and even that a winding that's that hot is a controller killer. So that's need to be careful about these low turn motor counts, because it's like they'll definitely take out controllers. They're definitely hard on controllers. So in your drag setup as a quarter mile, I have faith that Sabaton can do it, and maybe the BAC it might surprise us even for an everyday build. It might be surprising what it can put out, because it is good up to 100 volts.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the drag bike seems like it's gonna your new drag bike seems like it's gonna be a beast. And are you changing your lipo or on it, and probably maybe running Nanotex or something like that, or are we still going to stick with the multi stars?
Well, we've kind of gone around and around on that. I think ultimately we're going to try it the first time with the multi-stars, running three in parallel.
The
Hopefully,
16s?
actually the tens. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be pushing the batteries. The batteries are going to definitely be the weak point of the system.
Because I think, even it's sort of like with the voltage tag on the multi stars, even if you had a battery that that's a lot stiffer like the Nanotest, it could even prove, you know, maybe 5, maybe 10% more output just because it can sustain a higher voltage. So, you know, I'm not sure what sags you were getting on the bike now, but, you know, a few volts can essentially mean 500, maybe 500 more watts of power. You know, whether it be truly translated into power to the ground, that's another thing. You know, you got to look at uh, how much of it's going, especially launching off the line, how much of that is really going to heat and how much of it is really getting generated in the motor force. So I think to really tune your bike, you need to find one of these guys that possibly has like a dyno or something that you can test on, and you just tweak the numbers until you stop getting um, any performance gains, and then, you know, dial it back if heat is an issue, because you said that you basically unplug the temp sensor to do um, the dyno runs, and it's probably because, I mean, you're saturating the thing so much that um, it just really wasn't efficiently converting it to motor force, because we know once that copper gets hot, the resistance goes up in the winding, so it takes a lot more power, and the more power you put in it, the hotter that it's going to get. And, you know, we just really need to, you know, stick at a level um, to where we, you know, you're just not saturating the windings and just pissing away power. So um, it's a definite science to it, you know, and like I said, it's definitely fun, and it's interesting to see um, what these motors can do. And I think I think you should probably see if you can talk to Dr. Bass, because uh, I think his drag bike or drag trike was a 5302, and that's an extremely hard motor to drive. The 5303, I know definitely I had that before, and that killed controllers. But the 5302 is a beast in itself and incredibly low resistance. But, you know, he put that in the smallest wheel that he could. I think maybe a 16-inch wheel, and he's running it down the track. And of course, and if he runs anything less than 100, 125 volts, it's blasphemy. So, you know, you may want to see if you can get some pointers from him. And of course, you know, upgrading the phase wires and everything else.
Well, you know, that's kind of the beauty of the QS motors. It comes in option from the factory is 8-gauge phase wires. So that's what we ordered, is those large phase wires. So I'm thinking we don't have to upgrade those. If anything, we may have to upgrade the bearings.
Yeah.
We're gonna
put some SKFs or something in there.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's got nice beefy phase wires.
And typically with those phase wires, they use Teflon coated phase wire, and then they also put fiberglass sheathing over it.
Right.
Yeah, there's like some resin impregnated fiberglass sheathing, so it should be pretty beefy if they did it, you know, if they spec'd everything correctly. Also, another thing that if you are inside the motor, you may also want to check the actual phase connections, because a lot of them, they may solder it together, but that may not be enough, especially if you're planning on pushing a lot of power through. Because at least on some of the 9C motors, and I know it's probably a day and night difference between the QS motor and 9C motors, but typically the 9C motors were just soldered together. And like me personally, I was pushing enough power through them with 12 FET controllers that it will reflow the solder,
Right.
and you will have like an intermittent connection. And the only thing that's really holding, the only way that motor is really working is because it's in that fiberglass sheath, and that sheath is forcing it together. So what I had to do to upgrade my phase wire connection is I had to take everything loose, you know, restrip everything, and then actually put like a mechanical crimp around the phase wires, around the magnet wire and the phases, and the actual phase wires that leave the axle. So you have a mechanical connection. So even if it decided to reflow, you know, it's still a good solid mechanical connection. And I think that's good. It's not going overboard, but it's being definitely like anything that's worth doing is worth overdoing. So if you're in there, you might as well just do everything that you got to do to make that thing bulletproof, so you don't have to go into it again. So, you know, If it means drilling the covers out and rechecking the phase wire connections, so be it. And then I think that motor has dual hulls, doesn't it?
It does have dual hulls.
Sometimes they're populated, sometimes they're not. If they're not populated, you might as well populate them and bring those wires out also. So in case they fail, you can at least switch over to the other set. But I mean, that's some of the things you got to look at when you do these high-powered builds. Is just overdo everything that you can. Even at least with the Sabaton controller, that you can use lugs on the controller, so
Right.
you're not losing anything by having phase extensions and everything. And I think the phase wires on those motors are pretty long. So
Yeah,
uh,
they were good. I think almost, no, not quite a meter. They were maybe 40, 50 centimeters. Um, we'll have to figure out where to mount that Sabaton because it's kind of a big bulky block. It's not your typical, lungs.
oh
It's a
yeah,
little.
definitely. It's almost like the Holy Bible. A good hotel Bible size. Maybe
Yeah.
even two of them stacked together, depending on which one you get. So there's nothing to laugh about. It's a force to be reckoned with. And so and everything that I hear, like I said, I have two people that I've interviewed that that one of them's Alan Hugh, and he runs the Crow motor, and he just did
Yeah.
like a 300. He's been doing like a 350 mile ride up and down the California coast or whatever, and that's serving him quite fine. But one of the things that you're probably going to like about the Sabaton is the braking.
Right.
It brakes
They're
to
very low
zero.
regen.
Yeah, and it brakes to
Yeah.
zero. It will lock and skid the tire. That's what from what I told. Because even it's funny, like Alan Hugh and Alan, I think it's a Bioka or something, the one that made the Crow board. They both using the Sabaton, and they love the regenerative braking. And even Alan Hugh said he doesn't even run a rear brake on his motor because
Right.
it will slow it down to a stop. And Alan B said it will actually lock it up, and it does something like it slows the motor down. It's sort of it slows the motor down, sort of like a plug brake, and then after below a certain point where it can't generate enough back EMF to slow it down or something, then it actually
It applies a reverse
reverses.
current.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that's what the Infiniums are missing. Is they slow down to a certain speed, but after that last 5-10 miles an hour, that's all on regular brakes, and that still can even be kind of hard on regular brakes. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, I've seen your drag videos, and it seems like I said, it seems like at least on the current drag bike that there's room for improvement there. So I don't know. It just seems like to me, you're kind of sandbagging a little bit. Like the launch or the acceleration will seem kind of soft to me. So I
It was
mean,
a little soft. Yeah. It could definitely have used some more phase current for sure. This was we were just kind of gradually creeping up the amperage on it. Actually, that was the hottest run that we ran at close to 100 volts, and I was worried about blowing the FETs in the Lean controller, getting
hey,
too high voltage.
were you running an 18 Fed or a 24 or 36 or what were you
Eight,
running?
eight, 18 FET.
And that's still pretty impressive. And people like I honestly like when I get a controller from Lynn, I'm automatically he already knows that I want the phase upgrades. And if you take the board out and look at his solder work when it comes to reinforcing the traces and everything, he does an excellent job. So some of these 18 FET controllers can peak up to 100 150 amps, and the only thing that's really stopping it is that block time thing that everybody's scared of. You got to keep block time pretty low, like at almost zero, to where you have that instantaneous phase current, but the block time dictates how many seconds that the controller looks the other way and lets the motor do whatever it wants to. And then, but like I said, with those low turn motors, they can demand a lot of phase amps. So that's why a lot of people with the high power setups don't. They try to program it to zero or put it as low as possible, no higher than one, because it will just like rape and destroy the controller. So, but you running a Sabaton, so you that thing should be protecting itself left and right, you
That's
know.
right. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm just putting that information out there just in case, somebody decided they want to do a stock 18 fit because, the people on the forum are just notorious. I hate to talk about our old people, but they're just notoriously cheap and they won't go the extra mile because they're already spending a lot on these motors and controllers and everything. But they just don't go the extra mile and do the upgrades, and then they're hollering later when something's broken. So,
Yeah.
but all right, let's go on to like the Dolomite bike that you had. I mean, because it seems like that one's like a real torque monster, and uh,
It's actually a fairly tame bike. Although I do enjoy riding it quite a bit. It's funny. People actually comment more about the Dolomite than they do about the race bike
I
when
mean,
we
is right
ride
now we're in a
around
fat
town.
bike phase. We're in a.
It,
Go ahead, man.
we are. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. People just aren't used to seeing fat bikes, and it's it's almost like a really lightweight motorcycle, like a real dirt bike motorcycle, and they're just kind of fascinated by it. So it's an attention getter for sure. Performance wise, I run it, very low power. I mean, I'm probably not pushing more than about 3,500 watts into it, but it's got plenty of torque for what it is, and it tops out at about 32, 33 miles per hour, which driving around city streets, on my commute is fast enough. It's not as fast, obviously, as the race bike,
It's
but I enjoy riding it. It's a fairly comfortable ride. It doesn't have suspension like the other bike does, but it's still a decently comfortable ride.
I mean,
So,
I have a friend that
go
has
ahead.
a I have a friend that has a pet. Is there a? I think it's a. Yeah, it's a Petticoat Trailmaster fat packer. Now this is just a production level bike, and when I see him ride, he loves it. He actually runs a bike shop in Savannah, Georgia, and he loves riding that thing. And like when I see, I mean, he's not running like his stuff like super soft or anything, but the obstacles and stuff that he's able to take on that thing, like a lot of things that will like hurt regular bikes, like potholes and bad pavement, you really don't feel it on a fat bike. And I rode it, and for what it is, and his gets up to about 28 or something like that. He's running a geared motor on his. I'm actually surprised it's actually surviving, uh, but yeah, I mean, I've ridden it, and it feels pretty solid for what it is. And so at the power levels that you're running, yeah, it's you know, even I'm believing that 3,000 watts is pretty much all that you need. It gets you through most things. And if you ride smart and use inertia or build up speed
Right.
to get through certain things, and you can pretty much get away with 3,000 watts. And still be safe. It's just like one of the things that I notice about a fat bike, especially when it comes to handling, it has kind of somewhat lazy handling. So that means
Yeah, a little bit.
so it's sort of like it's kind of dampened because like on my bike I'm running 26-inch big apples, and when you're at speed, I wouldn't say it's squirrely, but little things in the road kind of gets the wheel kind of wobbling a little bit. When with fat bikes, it's not really, when at speed, it's not really a issue. Even like little pebbles on the road on my 26-inch 2.5 or 2.3 tire, it's like I said, it's enough to kind of upset the handling of the bike. But fat bikes just roll over everything. I mean, he's like literally like hit curves almost at speed. Just kind of slightly lifting up on the handlebars, but he just hits stuff at speed, and it just doesn't phase it at all. So I mean, they definitely have their place, but I think it's just more of looks and fascination and the attention that you get, that kind of makes fat bikes kind of the thing now. And
They're really fun to ride on like grass and gravel and just general off road or light off road places, And, they just float over everything. It's just really kind of a cool feeling.
Yeah, so and that kind of one then talking about this fat bike brings us to guess what?
What's
Your your
that?
your favorite people.
Oh
Your
yeah, the Saunders group. Yeah,
yes, yes, and I've
yeah.
seen the Saunders in person. Like, there's a guy down here in Tybee Island, Georgia, that has a Saunders bike, and I gave it a glance, and for it being an entry level electric fat bike, I gotta say I'm somewhat impressed, and but still, I would still take probably an additional $300 to $500 and really set that thing off and make it solid. But for what it is, I think a lot of those people make it out made out like a bandit,
I
And
think they did. I think they did. It's a very decent bike, and the really the big limiter is the battery and the controller. The motor could probably take up to about 1,500 watts. It's a
yeah,
good thing, BPM three, I think, especially made for fat bikes and
yeah, because of the ultra
right.
wide flanges.
Yeah, the controller. I actually we have a Saunders e-bike, and I've been doing some mods to it. Some upgraded the battery to a 12S lithium polymer. The controller is a KT controller that maxes out. It's a 6 FET controller that maxes out at about 16 amps. It's got 50-volt caps in it, which is why I've only taken it up to 12S lithium.
Oh yeah, that's 50-volt caps. That's
Yeah,
very unfortunate. Did you actually check the FETs on it to see what the FETs? They're probably like either 60 or 75-volt rated.
yeah, they're not very. I didn't even recognize the name brand of the Fed, so I didn't investigate too much further than that, other just than just observing that the capacitors were 50 volts and
And they're probably like the cheapest and like I've posted a link on Amazon or Facebook that even if you try to overvolt a cap by 1 or 2 volts, they can potentially explode. So by you even running 12S, you probably have to at the very most charge them to 4.15 volts or
yeah, I charged to 50 volts exactly. That's right. So
because yeah,
I do know that there have been reports of people running that controller on up to 60 volts.
they're
So there,
asking for it. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, and a few others that have ran it on a 13S 48-volt battery, so up to 54 volts.
From
And again, yeah, you're basically pressing your luck. You might get away with it for a while. You might get away with it for a long time. I I kind of take the readings of the capacitors and just say, okay, let's just leave it.
I mean,
So
but even still, like one, there's two things that you have to worry about. Is one, the capacitors, and you overvolting them. Like I said, they will take it for a short period of time, but guess what? When LED monitors and stuff fail, it's normally because of blown caps, and it's because they've been exercised and overheated and overvolted for such a long period of time that they just fail. And either they explode or they
see,
slightly yeah, it's I definitely don't condone it. It's actually even I will even go through the extra mile and take some probably like some bad electronics and see if I can find a 63-volt cap and actually replace it with the equivalent ferrite cap but at a higher voltage if they are going to continue to run those 48-volt batteries. But at the very least, we know what the ultimate upgrade is to throw a 3077 in there,
right.
6 FET, and do it correctly.
Running
But
30 amps all day long. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's still like I said, that motor. I've seen that motor. It's not impressive by any means. It's not. The only way that I would get more power, you would get more power out of that is to go up in voltage and leave the amperage where it's at.
Right.
Because
Right.
I,
Yeah, taking it up to 50 volts at 16 amps, you're still right around 600 watts total, which isn't a ton of wattage for a bike. So
I mean, and that's like I said, that's very unfortunate. And did, when with the new LCDs, did you ever were you able to get any more power out of it with the LCDs that weren't shipped with the first wave?
yeah, so the KT LCD3 is compatible with that controller. and I happen to have a few of those LCD screens around in my shop. So I hooked it up, and you can actually adjust the PAS settings with it, as well as delimit the talk speed. So I've got some YouTube videos on how to do that. But yeah,
So,
it'll do. If you get it going downhill, the motor will keep pushing up to get 30 plus miles per hour.
and let me guess, did you have to fake the wheel size and?
I had to use a different wheel size. The LCD that I had, um, at least the way that I had it programmed, and I'm not an expert on the LCD3 displays by any means, but just by my 20 minutes of playing around with it, we discovered that you had to adjust the wheel diameter like 14 for it to read accurately.
Yeah,
And
it's sort of,
then
it's like a twofold thing. You change it from miles to kilometers, and then you have to change the wheel size to like. Well, I'm the reason why I'm saying this because I have the Bafang and it uses a very, very, very similar um, screen or setup. It's not exactly. I can't say it's like an exact, but it's the same type of signals and everything. It's just basically the screen is nothing but a glorified remote programmer. And
right.
so for me to remove the speed limitation on my Bafang, I have to change the display to kilometers and then change the wheel size so that, well, changing it to kilometers removes the speed limitation, but in order to get the speed to display correctly, you got to change the wheel size, and then you can get it to pretty ballpark. It's within 5%. The wheel speed will be within 5% of the cycle. Like if I look at my cycle analyst and my Bafang, it's pretty doggone close. And then also there's like certain settings where you can change instead of like a 3-speed assist, you can change it to 5 and up to 9 levels of
Right,
assist.
with the BS. Yeah.
And then, but the only thing else that I can think of in order to like in those different levels of assist, if you want to fine tune that some more, you have to program the controller, hook it up to the computer and program the controller. And by doing like, because most of the time you will have finer levels of assist, but sometimes the settings are redundant. So maybe one and two, like past 1 and 2, maybe essentially be the same, and then 3 and 4, it sort of scales up from there. And then also, at least with the Bafang, if you did throttle only is half of, no, let's see, it was weird. It was like a 50-50 relationship. So if I'm on speed if I'm on assist level 9, I get full wattage if I open the throttle, but if I'm using pass at assist level 9, I have half of that assist, and then it scales down from there. I mean, I know I'm not trying to overlay what the Bafang does, but it's pretty much the same exact system and everything. It's just the display is a slightly different model, but it's still the same exact thing. But that's how I take that screen interfacing with the controller. Like I said, they may have they may have programmed the controller slightly different, but it's still all of those features are kind of in there. And so it's very unfortunate that the first wave people didn't get it. And I mean, was that an upgrade or was that?
So apparently the LCD display was always intended to be an aftermarket or ultimately an after-sale upgrade for the bike. Um, when I introduced or when I did the video showing off the display, a few days after that, I actually got a letter from Storm Saunders' lawyer asking me where I got it and if I would stop showing the video.
And
So
I think that's total BS. I mean, they don't have a market corner. This meter is available to everybody. If you were to do the right thing and actually had it available when the product released, then you couldn't say anything. Yeah, we're kind of messing up your sales because some people are canceling orders and oh, let's get one from Barron.
so anyway, just just to not rock the boat, I did decide not to import and sell the displays on my own. But most of the Saunders group is actually going on
Yeah,
the
they're
college
finding it themselves. Yeah.
like that. So in power to them. They're getting it before they can get it from Saunders. So
I mean, and the thing is just like honestly, you just ask you the same thing that you're doing with the battery. It's the same thing that you'll be doing with the display, and just totally ruining their sales. One, they're kind of shot themselves in the foot with the battery thing by not having the battery available, then charging $50 extra for shipping, and you're offering something that's much better. So it's like a no-brainer. Yeah, I want to cancel that order. Give me my money back and let me hop on the battery bandwagon and get something that's 50%, almost 50% better. And I'm actually,
yeah, it's all about picking the right cells really, and getting a big enough quantity where you can get the pricing down to get a decent deal on the batteries. I ended up on the pre-sale that we did a few weeks ago, almost a month ago now. I sold almost 300 batteries, so that
wow.
really helped get the price down.
Yeah, and so I mean, but definitely, uh, it's one of those things. As I had a recent cast with Rafe Hussein, the owner at Cali Bike,
Yeah,
and his batteries, and it was just one of the things that he made predominant to me is like make sure your supplier is checking the batteries and make sure you let them know that you're probably going to be doing sample testing out of, let's say, probably every 25 you probably test one battery just to make sure they're not pulling any fast ones,
right, right.
because like they'll do something different, like use a slightly different BMS or different wiring, different connector, and it would just, because they can just, like, those bottle batteries really weren't made to put out a lot of amps anyway, so they could just probably use a cheaper BMS and it will be only able to do, 10 amps, which, if it's, again, like I say, if they didn't disclose what they did, then it could reflect poorly on you and you have like a PR nightmare.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do some testing before we ship all the batteries out.
I mean, like
We're pretty detailed when we specify, what type of EMS the cells. We're using LG MH1 cells, which are fairly decent capacity. They don't have huge output ratings. I actually did some cell testing, individual cell testing on the MH1 cells. And there's certainly, better cells like the 2090s, Samsung 2090s, and the 25Rs and 32s that can output more current. But for what the controller of the bike needs, it only needs 16 amps, which means 4 amps per cell, because you've got four cells in parallel on that bottle battery,
the thing,
which is pretty modest requirements. So the MH1 cells really good fit for that battery.
like, yeah, it only needs, like you said, 16, 15, 16, 17 amps. That's not a huge demand. That's totally within the limit of the sales. And I wouldn't say these people, but they're not going to do anything more with it. There's no other upgrades or anything. Only thing else that I can even think of is, you possibly, it is not even really worth offering a 48-volt battery at this point. Um, although
I'm
certain,
actually going to offer a 12S triangle battery that's going to replace and fit in that triangle along with the controller. So we are looking at doing something custom along those lines.
uh,
Probably close to 20 amp hour 12S battery.
yes, man. Well, one of the things is we definitely got those 20 amp hour multi stores that finally hit the market now. Oh, that's
I, I saw that. Are they available in the U.S. or are they still just in Europe
I think
and
Europe and Australia, they're gonna come
everywhere
over
else?
here. They're gonna come over here because we
Yeah,
have a lot of people that use the DJ, I guess DJ Phantom 2 helicopter. I mean quadcopters that they're currently running. I think
yeah.
two 6S 22,000 milliamp hour battery, so that
Wow.
will be a good alternative replacement. But I'm definitely kind of itching. I see a battery upgrade in my future, because definitely 32 is too much.
Yeah.
20 amp hour. is right where we need to be, and only having 3 batteries, they're going to be huge, but I
It
will definitely.
simplifies the wiring considerably.
Yeah, and like I said, I've honestly, like I said, I've been trying to find that cash cow that I can do like a product that I can provide that's definitely like, I wouldn't say low risk, but like we do need those multi stars are perfect, especially the 16 amp hour. I think that's like the middle of the road where everybody can use it. But a lot of these people are kind of scared to use lipo and they want to use a BMS, and I really want to do a best tech solution, a best tech BMS solution, and just go ahead and solder on the 6S terminals, and just make it to where you just plug in the batteries um, to the balance leads on the best tech BMS and have all the leads soldered to where it's plug and play. And yeah, I want to do that, but is
Yeah,
is
that'd be a great project. Yeah, that's we're actually building a bike for one of our friends' company with a Bestech EMS. We're using the multi-stars and we're using the 24S D131 Bestech EMS on that.
I mean, they're like I said, they're nice for it. Though I haven't actually used one or actually had one in my hands, but it seems like that's the go-to BMS. And I think you're the one that slapped my hand off of something that I saw on eBay. Like, no, don't do that. Just go with Best Tech.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and I definitely want
You
to
got
be known for quality. So, um, is there? I just want to go. Is there anything else that you'll be offering either for Saunders or on your website that possibly that we need to watch out for?
really the next big thing is the triangle battery. That 12S 20 amp hour triangle battery. That's going to be the next big upgrade. As far as controllers go, obviously that's a big one. The challenge of that is actually getting all the wire fittings, the special connectors that bike uses, which are all waterproof, which are nice.
Yeah,
Um, Having them the right length, and so it can take a bit of back and forth with the manufacturers to get everything just right, and actually also figure out the wirings, the Hall space combo sequence, making sure that's correct. That's the big challenge with trying to offer an aftermarket controller.
yeah,
Um,
and the thing is, it has to be simple enough to where this
it's got to be plug and play.
yeah, the
It's got to
layman
be
person
super,
got
super.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
So and I've said I've always been whispering in your ear about some things, especially when I was over in the Saunders group, like this would be great or that would be great, and it was like we gotta wait till they're ready, and some of them are ready, but some of them are not, and um, it definitely is
Yeah,
gonna.
it's a full spectrum of riders and experience levels. There's a few guys on there that are verified electrical engineers, and they're doing lots of cool stuff. And there's people that just want to ride it. So
Yeah, that's totally fine. At least, like I said, at least we got the technology out there to the masses to where multiple people can enjoy it and get the name of electric bikes out there. And it's still one of those things. Like only like for me, I just wish they were smartly spending their money. Yes, like little cosmetic stuff and little things to make the bike more appealing or more useful, are definitely great. But like I said, getting the display, that's one thing, and they're doing their own thing to get the display, a larger battery. You've already satisfied that need. The 44 or 48-volt setup, that's something else that they really need to put their money into. And like I said, we try to talk about the psychoanalyst, but the psychoanalyst is not easy to integrate um, into that setup. But
actually, it's not terribly difficult if you simply swap out the battery or the battery, the controller, the bullets. If you swap those out with the Andersons,
yeah,
then it's fairly easy to standalone type of.
you
So
know,
that's kind of one of the other options I am offering on the website.
like I said, and I also said at the very least, just giving them a GT watt meter would help them out a lot because it seems like that battery door opens quite easily. So, if
Right.
they need to figure out, I mean, I guess one, you just figure out how far how far the battery lasts, and all right, so if it lasts 20 miles, then I probably need to start pedaling around 15 miles or start heading back or whatever. But I don't see that mindset. I
Not
just see.
yet, not yet, but they're learning and they're figuring it out, like we all did when we were first, learning how e-bikes work.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's definitely a crowd over there, and I just feel like you say the wrong thing over there, and it's like pitchforks, and you have been banned or you have been shunned or whatever. But I think they've gotten a lot better since I left, and they're getting a better understanding, and more people are getting their bikes delivered and everything. It's just like I say, it's just whatever Sunders does, from here on out dictates how well this flourishes. Because it could be vaporware. They could just get everything out and um, clear their obligation and disappear. Maybe it just wasn't a venture that they could pull off. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing stuff out there, but definitely there needs to be that aftermarket person in place to kind of deal with issues as they come up or deal with replacement parts. And I think you're in a good position to do that. And I'm also about to get in a position of where um, I just actually filled out the LLC paperwork and actually about to be a limited liability corporation. I should have done that a long time ago, but I'm going to be doing something big in the next few months, so I might start having product, whether it be something similar to you or just maybe even just, wiring and connectors and switches and stuff like that that we don't want to wait on from China or, I just want to be that priority provider. So I think we just need to
Sure.
continue to solidify our platform and make ourselves known in the marketplace as a reliable source to get these products. I mean, it's definitely nice that you have you're become a somewhat of a dealer for the U.S. market. And I pretty much would probably, like to be in the same position. I had an interview with Gary Salo at Golden Motor Canada, and how he started was just a humble beginning. And so, depending on how you play it, and if you want this to be um, a full time thing, you could definitely do it. He's done it, and I mean, we could definitely do it. We can definitely be the game changer and everything. So, I think ultimately we need to get to the point where at least we're in bed with these manufacturers, to where we're the community, we're the speakers for the community. This is what we want, and um, what are you going to do to fulfill that need? And how many do we have to buy?
Right, yeah. What's your minimum order quantity? Yeah, that's
And
always.
that, and that's the thing that's affecting us. One is getting that cap. It's really, as an independent business owner or a sole proprietorship or however you want to look at yourself, it's really hard to get that capital up. It's like you kind of have to spend money in R&D to get to get the product and evaluate it and see if it's feasible, and then is it at a dollar amount where it's accessible to the masses. But when you look at the Crow motor, people spending anywhere from $500 to $600 to even $700 for a Crow motor for the performance. And with all of these new e-bike frames coming to market, it's a lot of market there.
Yeah.
And I don't want the community or the evolution to get stale, because the Muxus 3000 and the Crow motor or the QS motor, that's not it. I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg on what's to
It's the
come.
Yeah, it's the stepping stone to what's bigger. Absolutely.
And I definitely would like to see. Uh, I like to see more more consumer friendly vehicles that take advantage of hub motors or something like that, like small one person or two person neighborhood electric vehicles with possibly
Right.
like maybe
Clio. Leo motors and those types of vehicles.
Yeah, maybe 30, 35 miles per hour capable, and but it's we already have the problem with us riding our bikes in the road. We can be in a 35 or 45 zone, but people will still try to pass us at 50 miles an hour just because you're a bike. So it's the mind. It's really mindset, legislation, and everything. But the technology is here. It's been here, and the way the battery technology has been changing over the past few years. We're ready for evolution. We're primed and ready. It's just you know like
Wait
how
for
the how,
that Tesla Gigafactory to get up and running, right?
yeah, oh shoot, man, that thing been need to be running. I mean, it's weird as how it's weird how quick we can throw things up if we really want it. And Tesla's not playing around. Tesla wants to get that factory up and going as fast as possible, but I've seen us throw up some stuff in no time and be in production, or people have already moved in. And but yeah, this the battery technology. I mean, it's weirdly we're coming back to these 18650 cells, or these cylindrical type cells. That seems to be what's the safest thing that's out there right now. You know.
Well, and as I hear it, they're going to increase the size of the cylindrical cells from what was used to by 700
So like I said, yeah, we talked about both of the bikes, the Dolomite, your race bike. We didn't go into much to about the what was it, the not the fighter, what is it? The
The Vector
commander?
frame? The
No,
Vector?
the your street bike.
The Assault?
Oh yes, the assault. Okay, yeah, we didn't go too
Yeah,
much
that was
into about that, but it's
that,
still.
that's the race. That was the original race bike. Yeah.
Oh, tell us about that incident that you had with that wheel and the Farfel swinger.
So originally the Farfel swing arm did not have clamping dropouts, and the controller that I was running at the time had really strong regen. And I was doing a couple of runs around the neighborhood and hit the brakes one too many times. And luckily, when it happened, I wasn't going very fast. I was going maybe 15, 20 at the most. And literally, the rear motor just ripped right out of the frame. Um, and I just was a tail dragger. Luckily, it didn't really hurt the motor, the rim. I was able to kind of repair everything and get it back and going. But I knew that yeah, we need to have clamping dropouts on that bike. So got it welded up and added the clamps. And since then, it's been rock solid. It's been great. So learning lesson. Even chrome moly can bend and warp when you push it hard with regen braking.
And one of the things that I kind of like, I'm using a torque arm that was either made by S. Orlando, or I think his name might be like Milligard or Milligard or something or whatever. He has these laser cut.
PL art,
Yeah,
PL art.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm using his torque arm, and I actually have both versions. And they used the disc brake mounts to mount,
Right.
but they link. But depending on your frame, if you have the correct frame format for it, they perfectly overlay on the dropout. And so the good thing about it is, instead of like most torque arms that are fork shaped and they're opened in, this
Right.
totally encapsulates, or it totally circles the axle. It totally encapsulates the axle and holds it into place. Now I gotta admit, um, there was a torque arm that I had before. I think it was like the e-bike CA torque arm, and
Right.
it's the weird thing with the e-bike CA torque arm. I always buy all of them, revisions 1 through 4, whenever I make a bike, and then whatever ones I don't use, I just sell back, because you can apply those in certain orientations not originally intended, but they might line up with certain holes, or you might be able to tap a certain hole or whatever. But the good thing about these torque plates, they're really, really thick, And if there ever is a failure, normally holds the wheel relatively in the same location
Right.
so that you don't have the failure where your motor dropped out and you're sparking down the street or
Yeah.
whatever, or you're
Yeah.
dragging the motor. I had like my previous frame with the Magic Pi, I broke the dropout, and it was an aluminum dropout. I broke it, but the torque arm actually kept it in place. And I was actually able to ride home and probably could have rode for several more rides with the dropout broken, and it, like I said, it was holding it in place, and it was still like it was a little bit of flex, but it wasn't a lot. And I'm not saying I condone it, but the thing is, it actually got me home, and that's the most important thing. It got me home, and it wasn't a catastrophic failure. And the thing that happened, it, when I when I undid the nuts, the dropout broke in three pieces.
Huh. Wow.
It was like it was like two or three pieces, and the washers that I had on there were holding it together, and the 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 pressure of the nuts were holding it together, but the torque arm was still holding the wheel in the dropout, even though the dropout was broken. So, but it's still nothing beats a true clamping dropout. But like I said, what I liked about these water jet torque arms is they totally encapsulate everything, and regen is one of those tricky things. If you give it an inch, it'll take a mile. So if there's any play when you put that torque plate on, regen to take advantage of that. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but the good thing about these torque plates, they're pretty thick, so they don't deform a lot. And one of the things about the e-bike CA torque arm, I've seen people, even though they're pretty thick, I've seen people totally deform and round them out. And so that's why I also think that it's good to have torque plates on both sides, because most of the time you see axle failures when they're using one torque plate. So I have one of these torque plates that's on the disc brake side, but I'm also using an e-bike CA torque arm on the other side. So, and they're also orientated so one should be taking up the slack for regen, and the other one should be, you know, reinforcing the forward. But basically, one is for forward and one is for reverse, and so we know regen goes in the opposite direction. So they kind of work on each other, and it just simply works. But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, especially when you took the picture. But like I said, a lot of people have these catastrophic failures, and it definitely could be a lot worse. And like I said, we're dealing with power levels that aren't made for production bikes. Anybody that's running any motor without a torque arm is just crazy. Even like I said, you had a swing arm that was made for a motor, and it spread it like it was nothing. So it's just it's a no brainer. And you have any tips for any people that might be doing a Muxus motor build? What you can, what you can't do. I know one thing is got to be careful with the calipers you use, the brake calipers, if you do use any.
Right. Yeah. One of the things we're finding out is you probably need to add a rotor spacer between the motor, the cover of the motor, and the brake caliper. There's a few different types of calipers, like the Hayes MX4 and MX5, that will fit, but they're really hard to adjust. You basically got to pull them off to adjust
Yeah,
them.
and that's the problem that I have. Actually, I have a really cheap caliper. It was like, actually, I got the caliper off of a Walmart bike, but it had enough clearance to where I could mount it up. But the thing is, after so many rides or so many miles, I got to pretty much take the caliper off, readjust it, and then spend another 20, 30 minutes readjusting the alignment, and then I'm good for probably another 100, 200 miles. So then I got to rinse and repeat. And the thing is just because there's an adjustment screw on that inside pad.
Which you can't get to unless you pull it off. Yeah.
I mean, it's like I could take an Allen key, like a loose Allen key, and grind it down all the way and get in there, but it's not ideal.
Right.
That's not the ideal way to do it. And so I want to put hydros on. Really, if I could put a 203 brake rotor and just clear the motor, period. A 203 will set it up high enough to where you can adjust it and put any caliper on there. But my bike can't accept a 203. I think it can go up to a 180 millimeter brake rotor. So you're kind of in the position of where either you use a controller that definitely that has good regen that can brake you all the way and have a really good front brake, a really good front hydraulic brake, and then use the rear motor regen to take up the rest of the slack. That's one way to do it, but I know that's one problem with the one tip for the motor. But mine's came with a plastic spacer, and I've been kind of using that
Yeah.
fine. It's not the greatest, it's not advised, but it came stock with the motor, and it just happened to space it out exactly the amount that I need, and it works. So I haven't changed it. So that's that. Only thing else I can think of with that motor is possibly don't run the full length phase wires. Just try to keep them short as possible if you are pushing it. Put
Right, yeah, especially if you go to like a 3-turn or even a 4-turn
Oh
motor.
yeah,
So,
yeah. The four.
yeah.
Well, I have the 4 turn, and I actually have mine at about about a foot and a half, and they're doing okay, but they're in such an orientation of where at least they're being cooled by the air,
Uh-huh.
by general wind on the bike. They're not tucked in or in some type of harness to where the heat can build up. But I mean, I gotta admit the stock phase wires on the at least the 4 turn, they're better than the 9C.
Yeah.
And I know that I was first showing a lot of power through the 9C, which had either was it 16 or 18 gauge wire. So and the Muxes have
Well, this
definitely
is
a
a 2.5 millimeter squared, which is just right in between 12 and 13 gauge.
it's better than anything that I've had. So I'm like, this is a step up, and I'm running the same amount of power that I'm usually running. So I mean, I'm happy with it. I haven't seen any failures or anything like that. And you definitely want to use a robust connector because I like I said, I interviewed not Calvin, but Alan Hugh, and he said like, yeah, I was racing on the track and my Andersons melted. I'm like, you're still using Andersons on phase wires? I'm like, damn, dude, that's you definitely don't want to put Andersons on the phase wire of a Muxus motor. Definitely use some bullets or something like that.
Yeah, at
Uh,
minimum, I'd use a 4 millimeter HXT bullet. Yeah.
and I'm using XT 150s on mine, so it's kind of oversized for the wire, but it's definitely a solid connection that I haven't had any problems with. But 4 millimeter bullets is questionable, especially at the high phase currents that people will typically probably like to run on it. So um, XT 150 or some type of bullet style connector with a lot of mass to it, because
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
things is if you do cut it short, you want the heat to heat sink into a larger wire. So I don't think you'll get good transfer with a 4 mil. You can use a 4 millimeter bullet, but I think just using a hefty connector and getting that heat transfer into a larger phase. Like if you have to use a phase extension, um, I use 10 gauge or 8 gauge phase extensions if I have to go to the controller, and that typically, like I said, it pulls the heat away from the phase wires at the axle or whatever. But normally, if you have a good motor, they use Teflon coated wires on the phase wires and the hall wires if it's a really good company. So I don't foresee that being too much of an issue. Um, but and what about, like I said, your controller recommendations for the different turn counts? Because I know that we can get away with smaller controllers on the 5 and 6 turn, but definitely on the opposite end, you probably have to
Right.
use a 12 or 18 fit.
Yeah, so I typically recommend the 18 FETs for the 3 and the 4 turn, and a 12 FET for the 5 and the 6 turn. And in fact, the controllers that we sell, the Z Chain, which is very similar to the Infineon controllers, same programmable
Yeah,
features. Um, but they our 18 FETs do have the 6 millimeter bullets, and the 12 fetters have the 4 millimeter bullets. But yeah, that's typically what I'll recommend. A lot of guys will actually run the Adapto controllers on the 3 and 4 turns as well. Adaptos are pretty popular. We are not a reseller of Adapto just because I have a hard time justifying spending that much money on a controller. But
Well, it's like the Sabaton. You can get a Sabaton for $300 something,
right,
and the adapter is just way out the ballpark between the actual cost of the product, all the add-on boards, the charge coil, and everything. You're almost sitting at
it's
and
like
I don't, $800 or $900 almost, I think, or something like
yeah,
that. It's something very unreasonable unless you just made a money and just want to do it for shits and giggles,
yeah,
But apparently, Dr. Basis, like, he's still trying to get that dual muxes up and going with the dual adapters. He's trying to run a master slave thing with the
right,
adapter, and it's like there's so many features in the adapter. It's a nice controller, but if you just simply want raw power and the simplest way possible, and even like the Sabaton has, you can hook it up to the controller. I mean, you can hook it up to the computer and play around with it, reprogram it. Actually has some Hall learning combo or some, well, I think it's Hall angle adjustment or something where it spins the motor for like 2 minutes and finds the best combination to make it run more efficient, and everything is just very simple and straightforward. Even the connections on it are straightforward. The adapter controller is just, it's flashy, and like I said, I like the BMS function in it, and I like that you can basically regen charge through the controller. But man, I need them to kind of come down in price, or at least maybe offer a bulk quantity discount or something if I did entertain ordering like a set of 10 or something, but just even any layman person, trying to order. I mean, where are they located, or is that company in Russia, or
I'm
that
not exactly sure. It's somewhere
somewhere
eastern.
over there? All right, let's go back to this bag thing real quick. I mean,
Uh-huh.
um, like I have one of your. I had the first version of the bag, and then I had the revisited version of the bag. And the only problem that I had was any bike that didn't have that tube in between the top tube and the down tube. If there was
Uh-huh.
no spacing in between that for that front strap to go across the front, I couldn't use it. And all three of my bikes have that problem. They sit nicely on the top tube, but I really can't strap it
Yeah.
because I also have an issue with the front fork slapping it. So I think when you have those bikes, I forgot. I don't know what it's called. The front tube steer. It's the steer tube.
Uh-huh.
Steer tube. If you don't have a big steer tube where you actually have 3 or 4 inches between the top and bottom tube, then you can't
Right.
use the bag. But it's still that's a very functional bag. And like I said, I think maybe um, I wish I could find a similar version of that bag that I can actually put on the rear rack, to
Uh-huh.
where it'll be the center, it'll keep the center of gravity low. But I mean, that bag was, you said it was basically made if you wanted a commuter bike, wanted to easily remove your battery, and you had no intention of pedaling.
Right. Yeah.
And certain bikes, like maybe if you had a stretch cruiser bike or one of these chopper bikes, you could actually probably, still pedal. But most of the bikes you really can't pedal with it. But it's still an insane amount of capacity that you can put in these things, and they're well padded and everything. So I'm still impressed with it. It's just I'm just really kind of mad at myself that I couldn't like use it, as intended, because because what I had was I had the Falcon EV bag, and that was in the frame. And if I needed more capacity, or I just wanted a quick change pack where I just slap it on there in 30 seconds, I'm ready to go, then I really wanted your bag to work. But there's still a lot of people that it still works. It works for them. How are the sales going on that?
They kind of slowed down in the last few months, and I haven't had the means to do another batch.
Is it just like not really worth to revisit that right now, or
Probably not. I don't know that I'm going to have another batch made. So, we've got other plans in the works, so
I
it's
mean,
kind of one of those things where you learn and you move on.
it's like one off, like a one off product. It was a good idea. It worked for me, like you said, it worked for you, and you kind of enjoyed it. And I
Yeah,
guess if
it worked on the assault, and I used it on that, and it can hold a lot. But yeah, I think ultimately it was just kind of too big and bulky, and
it wasn't like a one size fit all
yeah,
type
yeah,
thing. Like I said, I have the additive frame bag, and I can kind of easily move that one in between my bikes.
yeah.
So it just the flexible. I mean, I guess it really takes a lot of R&D. But one of the things about making products like this, and like you're sitting down and you're looking at the assault bike, and this really works on the assault bike. But how long is that bike going to be in production? Because people have been trying to find Genesis frames, and they're freaking rare. It's like almost like the production is probably already stopped on it, and they're moved on to another.
You can still get them brand new from Walmart for 150, $160.
So you probably have to order them from Walmart Direct
Right.
and
Yeah.
get it in the brown box versus trying to wait for them to actually stock it in the store.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Order it online. Absolutely.
but then again, it's like if you even try to another thing about trying to make any production bikes and like one of the things that Justin said is like he really doesn't like selling bikes. That isn't his business model. He wants to sell the parts, and that kind of relieves him of um, all
Right.
legal issues and
Yeah.
stuff. And
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Yeah. We generally try and steer away from selling turnkey bikes for that very reason.
because even with turnkey bikes, I mean, again, I still don't know how HPC does it and offers a warranty and all of that. And it's like I mean, and I'm like I may be bashing, but like I said, this podcast is all about opinion, and I'm not trying to put you in a position or anything. I'm not trying to mudsling or whatever. But it seems like you have to be in a place like Kansas or Oklahoma where it's flat as hell in order to enjoy like a high powered cycles bike that has all of that power,
Yeah.
um, and that can deliver it continuously. But just as I stay in Georgia and nothing's flat, it's the same thing up in Washington where where you stay. There's nothing flat, and you have that much power and use it at the wrong time. People are going to have a bad time, and then they think you're going to you sold them a lemon. It's like people just want to like get in a car and press the accelerator and have it go. They don't want to, and it's the same thing on a bike. You give them a taste of how fast the bike can go. They want that bike to go that fast through any obstacle, and you try to tell them, well, it has this amount of power, it has this amount of speed, but you have to use it carefully on hills, or you have to use common sense. They just want to twist the throttle and go, So and that's one of the things. It's sort of like almost like you have to have like a survey when you sell every motor just to ensure that it's going to be used appropriately. Because you can have a customer that can be a headache, or you can have a happy customer. You know that you took the time and put them in the right thing, and they're overall happy. Versus somebody that that's going to burn it out, and then they're gonna holler that burnt up my halls and everything. And that's kind of one of the things that has me scared of actually going into the hub motor business or whatever. One of the things that saved Gary at Golden Motor is like all of his stock controllers and everything are at same voltages. I mean, I think the Magic Pies are either the Smart Pies at 18 amps and the Magic Pies at 25 amps. You really can't mess anything up.
Yeah.
It's the people it's the homebrew people, do it yourself people that caught the fever, and just really, unless they have that skill set and that mindset on how to use the power, like with great power comes great responsibility. Unless they know how to use it judiciously,
Right.
they're just going to have a bad time and have issues. And that's one of the things that you have a bulletproof motor, and as long as you pair it up with stuff that isn't going to overpower it, because like at the voltages and the amperatures you're talking about, I can see how this motor can be a nice kit.
Yeah.
But me, on the other hand, that overclocks it that 20, 30%. I'm hanging in that danger zone to where I got tipped either way. But once people hear 100 volts and 100 amps and everything else, I've like I said, I've been to the 100 volt crowd, and I had and you have a parts trail at 100 volts. You have a parts trail out of this world, where there be brakes, controllers, batteries, wiring. You burn up a lot of stuff in 100 volts. So all thing I can say is with your drag bike, take the time and do it right, because you don't want to go out there half-assed and and make an embarrassment of yourself when you have plasma coming out your covers that
The
are drilled.
plasma would be good. I'd love that. Yeah.
Have plasma coming out your penis-shaped air holes in the side of your motor,
Yeah.
unlike some people, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, that's but that's I mean, I'm like I said, I'm rambling at this point. But anything else you'd like to add, man?
I think we're pretty good. My kids are about ready for bed, so I should
That kind of
probably.
works out, and so. But definitely, I would like to have you, either on a three-way call or something a little bit later, and I'd like to have a true roundtable discussion if I can find that third wheel. But I'll let you know um, what I can come up with, because I want somebody important, you know. I want no bullshit person or somebody important. That
You need to talk to Sam DeCock. He's a guy to get on.
actually I'll probably get in, see if I can get in contact with him tonight and throw the feelers out there, and I'll let you know, see if we can come together one evening, and I'll try to plan it around uh, a late night where I know you're a family man, and I'm not the bachelor, but I don't have anything going on over here,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm a little bit free. But anyway, but thanks for entertaining this call, and I think there's a lot of information and a lot of good things. I know we've talked up this motor to death, so maybe we can maybe you can get some sales.
Yeah. And spreading the information. That's always good.
Yeah. All right, man. You take it easy, and tell the missus I'm sorry.
We will too.
All right,
Thanks,
man.
thanks,
Have a good
Christopher.
have a
All
good
right.
one.